Go on and bring the men in, and we'll have a little fresh coffee with the boys here.
Yoo-hoo!
Podcast, The League versus Young Guns 2. And I'm Massachusetts, Matt Durson.
And I'm John Hunt, and I'm here to have a little fresh coffee with the boys.
Clay Inferno here. Alive, alive, alive!
All right. Welcome back. So last episode, we did our Young Guns podcast. So we thought we would obviously finish off that series with Young Guns 2, the sequel. Although apparently there's a Young Guns 3 in the works. I don't know how.
Guns.
Wait, that's a
Just
different.
guns.
Oh, that's our next movie I made a reference
That's
to.
like
Right, it's
adjectiveless
just
Spider-Man.
Right.
Adjectiveless guns.
I mean, I guess we shouldn't even talk about that, but I mean, I suppose we didn't see Billy the Kid die, supposedly. We didn't see Chavez die. We'll get there. But yeah, Young Guns 2 came out just 2 years after the first one. John Fusco, same screenwriter, different director, but, you know, it made enough moolah that they brought not everybody back, most of them back, the main folks.
Yeah, well, some of those guys died in the last movie,
Yeah.
so couldn't bring them back.
Well, that's, hey,
Charlie
they
Sheen
could do it for the
done
third
died.
one. Charlie Sheen done died, and Casey Sizemashko and Dermot Mulrooney died, but I feel like they were always, I don't know, like I wonder if they were probably hoping to do a sequel, otherwise they would have just done the whole, most Billy the Kid movies have him dying at the end, you know? So I assume they were like, let's make two. But
And we got a recasting, so a character from the last movie.
it's true. It's true. The first one, Pat Garrett, was played by Patrick Wayne, who was John Wayne. What did you call John Wayne Newton?
John Wayne Newton, yeah.
John Wayne's son. And now it is William Peterson, who went on to be, what was it, CSI or one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He reminds me of, this isn't going to matter to anyone out there, so you can cut it out, but he reminds me of McHugh in this movie. Not McHugh, the John Wayne movie, our friend McHugh.
Okay.
It just has like a McHugh vibe to him, like just the way it looks to me. I don't know why.
Well, he has like two different looks in this movie.
He does have two different looks, but both looks
Very
he still
distinct.
reminded me of McHugh.
Oh, okay.
The Regulators sort of expand a little bit. Some different. We get Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller's Day Off and
Yeah.
Succession.
And Star Trek Generations. Go back and listen to that podcast. We did that one?
We did that one. Yep.
Yeah, we did
it.
that.
All the
That's as that's as close as you guys will ever let me get to a Next Generation movie, and I'm grateful.
I think we did that one as a concession. We were just going to stop and say,
Yeah,
like, fine.
I mean 5. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a fun one to watch, you know, as a watch along and just make fun of it. Anyway, yeah, Alan Ruck. And of course, yeah, we also added Christian Slater as Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, who wasn't from Arkansas. And apparently his real nickname was maybe Dirty Dave because he was
Dirty Dave. But they already had a Dirty Steve already. Couldn't go back to that well, that dirt well.
Dirk. But it was kind of in the same, like we were talking last time about like the Brat Pack kind of thing with Kiefer Sutherland and Emilio Estevez and Lou Don Phillips, and now Christian Slater kind of feel like fit right in there.
Yeah, he's only like 21 or something, 20 when they were shooting this movie. So
wow, yeah. But he had already been in like
he had his Jack Nicholson imitation down.
Yeah, he was. I mean, people compared him to like, you're like a young Jack Nicholson for many years. I can't say. I feel like he never quite became Jack Nicholson.
No, he didn't. He sort of faded away.
Yeah,
they kind of all have it to a point. I feel that Cameron Fry's still around and Kiefer Sutherland, but everyone else you don't really hear much from.
Yeah, I know.
Christian Slater was in Mr. Robot.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but that show hasn't been on for a long time.
A couple years, yeah. Since our No Time to Die episode.
Oh, because it had what's his name in it?
Yeah. Mr.
Guy, the
Robot.
bad guy, whatever his name is. Yeah, it's funny. Christian Slater, and he had been in Heathers and Pump Up the Volume and everything. I feel like he was really like on the rise. And then,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
these things happen.
yeah,
He was
Maybe
also
it was
in Star
that-
Trek 6.
yeah. Just as that brief cameo. And then I don't know, maybe I don't know. He was on Curb. Do you remember? Didn't he take a lot of shrimp? Do you remember that, Clint?
Oh yeah.
He was at a party and just loaded up on the shrimp. And he's like, "Well, are you in charge of the shrimp?" Like, as Larry like yelled at him. Whatever. Anyway, as we get into this movie, we find out, for one thing, I do want to point out before we get into the plot that this is like a year after the last one, but it seems like it could have been a lot longer by the way they're like, oh, like reuniting and Pat and Billy are like old pals.
Well, time moves differently when you're still young.
I guess that's true.
Seems like a year seems like forever. Now
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
true.
yesterday.
True.
I know. I can't even. It's not even that. I mean, not even that long ago. I can't even remember what the hell. But yeah, maybe when you're young and when you don't have anything, like you're out in the old west, living in the desert or whatever. Doesn't
Starting
matter.
a new life as a teacher. Do that for
That's
a
right.
couple years, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it though, because the beginning of this movie, I always thought was really fun. So like it starts out like the credits and everything, and it looks like it's the desert, you know what I mean? And it is. But it's like the plains, and like there's this guy walking like a horse very slowly. This old guy, he's walking along and he sits down and he looks at a truck just drives by, like an 18-wheeler, and it's like, oh, I guess this isn't the old west, you know?
Yeah,
I thought that
very
was
fun.
a cool.
I didn't
I thought
remember
that was
this at all.
I thought that was a cool moment. And then Bradley Whitford, who has since been in many, many, many things.
Yeah,
He's always like the smarmy dad.
When we were watching it, Mrs. Elder was like, "Oh my God, it's Josh from West Wing."
Oh, okay. Is that what?
Of course, that's what she knows him from. Of course, I remember
Yeah.
RoboCop 3 as the bad guy, and Billy Madison too.
Yeah, I remember Billy Madison.
He's a rather likable character on West Wing. I think he finally
good.
played against his smarmy, douchey type that he was always playing before that.
Yeah, he did. I remember like Scent of a Woman. He was like mouthing off, and then like Al Pacino grabs him by the throat and he's gonna like choke him. Yeah. It's like, anyway, he's always the jerk, but here he's fine and it's fine. So he gets out of his car and he goes up to the guy and he's like, and he says the name William Roberts, because we're supposed to think, oh, William, Billy the Kid. Oh, but anyway, he's a lawyer. And the old guy says his name is Brushy Bill Roberts. And he says, no, alias William H. Bonney. And he's like, whoa, William H. Bonney. And he says, alias Billy the Kid. So, funny thing is, this is Emilio Estevez in very old, very, like, realistic looking old makeup.
Looks great until he speaks. Just sounds
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't buy the voice?
Oh, no.
Well, funny thing about the voice is that Emilio wanted to really nail it, so he did like voice coaching and like hung out with old people in the makeup, and they were totally convinced and said that he did a great job. But I guess maybe to a modern sensibility, it doesn't sound great, or maybe just it doesn't sound great.
Just sounds really high pitched to me. Like it just looked. The voice didn't match the makeup to me, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean,
it didn't bother me so much this time, but I remember when I was younger watching, I was like, it sounds really weird.
Yeah, the carpet didn't match the drapes.
Yeah, so apparently though he did that stuff, like the studio was like, no, we'll just find an old guy, and he's like, no, I want to do it, and he hired his own makeup and voice coach, like with his own money to do it, and then the studio was like, all right, sure, and that saves us from having to hire an old guy. But I'll admit, when I was a kid, I couldn't tell. I mean, I was 14. What do I know? But I mean, it sounded like him, but I was like, there's no way. He looks so old. So, good job.
Had no recollection of this being a part of the movie whatsoever. But I did sort of kind of remember the rest of the movie, but I didn't remember that like little funny thing at the beginning. Because I said, like, they opened the other movie where they just like shot like a music video, like all the young guns shooting, boom, 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 boom. But this was kind of a cool intro too, to
this movie
thing,
feels like more of a movie. It's better made than the last one.
Yeah, it's not so much just a video.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy's like, "What can I do for you?" And Bradley Whitford, he's like, "I want to be pardoned," and he wants to be pardoned for killing 21 men. So he says 21. You remember there was some discrepancy about how many men he had killed. But he says he's killed 21 men, and the guy's like, 21 men? And he's like, everybody knows Billy the Kid was killed, like 70 years ago. And he's like, do you have any evidence? Any scars? And then like they kind of like blast back to the past. So he's going to explain all this Billy the Kid stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you were going to get to this, but there was actually a guy in the 50s that did claim to be Billy the Kid. So that's where this kind of comes from. Yeah.
He basically narrates, he does like a voiceover through like the whole movie. Sometimes not the most reliable narrator you ever, like he sort of like prints the legend, as they say, but it's still funny. I like that bit. I like that he's not being necessarily honest. Like later on, he's talking about Doc liking him and wanting to ride with him or whatever, but we'll get there.
Yeah, print the legend.
Yeah, print the legend. So we get young Billy now, and he and his new partners, Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, played by Christian Slater, and Pat Garrett, played by William Peterson. Pat Garrett with long curly hair and a goofy mustache, kind of. They set up these bounty hunters to steal their stuff. I do like, there's like some subtle reference. Every time you see Dave, at least at the beginning of the movie, he's like taking some booze from somebody and drinking like right out of the bottle. It's great.
And it doesn't Billy the Kid say like, yeah, Dave, put your lips around this.
Yeah. When they get to the village later, he's like, yeah, curl your lips around this. I do also like the part. So they shoot these bounty hunters, but one guy's like kind of still alive, and Pat goes up to him. He's like, hey, don't I know you? And the guy's like, yeah, you know me. And he's like, yeah, what's your name? He's like, Travers. And he's like, nah. And she's, the voiceover keeps saying the rest of the regulators are dead or gone or hiding. And he said, I never let them push me out. And they show all these like headlines of Billy the Kid kills blah, blah, blah,
Well, every time they show a newspaper, it flips onto the page and it has a gunshot sound effect to it, which I rather liked.
Yeah, it was a fun. And then like they kind of I don't know, they call it like a smash cut or something, but it's a New York newspaper that says that New Mexico governor wants to round up outlaws. So this is something that I think is kind of a theme throughout the movie. And I was going to bring it up later, but what the hell, I'll say it now. I feel like there's like a theme here where it's like this is kind of the end of an era in a way. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
This is 1880, I think, 81. Sorry, I don't know, but like it's kind of like the whole Old West thing is kind of over.
Yeah, 1880.
So, yeah.
It's Billy just trying to hold on to his glory days. Is really what, and a fear of moving on and what lies ahead, kind of thing. Whereas Doc has embraced that future. Yeah, Billy's just still trying to remain.
Hey, just wanted to ride forever. Good segue, because when we flip to that New York paper, then we go into this classroom, and Doc is there, and he's got his glasses and his hair is all nice, slicked back and combed and everything, and he's trying to get this kid to. He has like a big wooden letter F, and he's trying to teach these kids. And one of my favorite things is like the kid says family. He's like, yeah, family, good job. And he's like, so we have family. And then one of his F words is fulminate. I was like, what kid came up with that one?
Like the nerd that gets picked on, that's who came up with it.
Well, I like W, and he's like, pocket watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he does the most ridiculous, like, weird, silly dance, like the ridiculous walk from John Cleese. He's like, and then they all go wobbly.
Yeah. And then as soon as he's wobbling, the cops come in and nab him, and they're like, "Don't move." That's got to be pretty fun. If you imagine sitting in a classroom and your teacher just gets arrested right in front of you. I guess we'll go home for the day. Oh.
Now it would be the kids that get arrested. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. And they would definitely not know what fulminate means. Yeah, so they're, as the newspaper said, they are rounding up all these outlaws, and Doc is one of them. So, yeah, we cut back to Fort Sumner. The kid and Arkansas Dave and Pat are welcomed in. Everybody's like, "Yay, it's the kid, yay!" And there's women all around, and yeah, they get some free booze. So they go in, and this guy, Beaver, owns this, I guess it's like a bar or a restaurant or whatever. I don't know. But this guy...
What has this guy been in? Because he is, like, really familiar to me.
Oh, well, go back and listen to our Batman podcast, because he
was okay. All right.
Bob. Bob the Goon.
I'm turning in my nerd card right now.
Yeah, you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
I'll keep it over here in case you say something nerdy.
In case I say something nerdy. Okay. I think
yeah, that's Bob from...
He'll send it back to you when you deserve it with our next round of no prizes.
That's right. So, yeah, and they're talking about the new governor, and he was a general, and he wants to like this guy Beaver's like, they want to put you down. And the kid he rips the newspaper in half to show that
print is dead.
Print is dead. That's all there was.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
I was wondering why no one was texting each other.
I can just text Doc anytime.
And then he asks for frioles and coffee.
Yeah, like a coffee. So then this little kid comes up to him. First of all, he goes up to Dave and he's like, "Are you Billy the Kid?" And he's like, "No, I'm Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh." He's like, "You must have heard of me. I killed 65 men, not including Mexicans and Indians." I love how Dave likes to build up.
Yeah.
There's printing the legend, and he's going way, way overboard. But that's still pretty funny. He wants to be famous. So anyways, the kid goes inside. So this is Tom O'Ford. I guess. Are the two L's like a Y? I think they say O'Ford. Sure, whatever. So this is Balthazar Getty, who was another one who was kind of like, on his way up. And then...
Yeah, we looked him up the other night, too. And he's become he's a handsome man now.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. He was a handsome young man.
Yeah, well, I showed the picture to Mrs. Elder, and she's like, he looks better now than he did then. So,
well, no shit.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
I mean, in reality, Tom and Billy were like the same age, or Tom might have even been a year older than him, but here he is portrayed as just a young, I think they say he's 14 and a half later on in the movie. So, but anyway, he wants to ride with the kid. And the kid's like, "Oh, yeah, you want to ride with me?" And get shot in the leg, and everybody trying to get you. He's like, "Get out of here." So, not the end. We'll see him later. Anyway, we cut back because Doc is being brought in. There's like a pit in Lincoln where most of the first movie took place. And Doc gets thrown into this pit with all these other criminals. And some guy's trying to choke him. And he gets saved by Chavez. Lieutenant Phillips is back. He is also in the pit. And yeah, they're going to get hung, they say.
We're talking about, how, Johnny, you said that, like, this movie's, like, better made, and the thing that I mentioned about in the last podcast too is like usually they use the old Western sets. It seems like this is more of they used some sets that exist already for the town of Lincoln.
Yeah, this doesn't even look at all the same as Lincoln did in the last movie.
But I can't ever remember. They always do kind of like have gallows and stuff. I don't ever remember seeing any cowboy movies with like a pit jail. Like that really sucks, man.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like a real
hole
thing.
In the ground, that sucks.
Yeah, they just dump you in a hole. And we also have another funny joke because you remember from the original movie, Doc kept sort of taking credit for other famous writers' stuff, and Chavez says something. Yeah, he says, "I never wrote that. I always wanted to tell you." It's like you're finally owning up to not writing it, like this stuff. I always wanted to tell you that. I never wrote it. I didn't write that. So we cut back to Billy the Kid. He's hiding out. Pat comes in. He says, the governor wants to meet you and talk treaty. And you testify against the Murphy boys in that pit. And the interesting thing is, in fact, okay, I don't want to like poke all the holes. In real life, it was apparently actually Billy who went to the governor and said, I'll testify for, if you let me go. But anyway, yeah, so Billy, there's still like a bounty on his head. So he's like hanging out and this guy goes, hey, Billy, and he tries to shoot him and he's like, ah, so he has to run basically. And then we see him with the governor. And this governor, his name is Lou Wallace, but in real life, his name is Scott Wilson. And fans of The Walking Dead will recognize him as Herschel from The Walking Dead.
I like how when Billy shows up to the governor's office, he kind of like gives him a little peekaboo, kind of like Mario. Because hey, he like ducks his head in. It's a fun.
Yeah, I
scene.
think he's a little nervous. That these guys could. He's just walking into a trap or something. But
we used to make reference to the Sweet Frost.
Yeah, so Billy, first they talk a treaty. He's like, I want a full pardon. I'll testify against all those guys for a full pardon. And they're like, okay, well, we'll give you a fake arrest. We'll pretend to arrest you so they don't get you before then. And so like, okay. But then he's like, do we have a deal? And he's like, can I have a piece of that cake? Yeah, and it was funny because he goes to get a piece of like chocolate cake or whatever. And he's like, Pendleton, the white cake with the sweet frost. And we used to think sweet frost.
Sweet frost was
funny. It's a funny way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet frost.
With the sweet frost.
Yeah.
The white cake.
Sweet white frost. Billy.
That would be my rapper's name. The white cake with the sweet frost.
Mine would be Pendleton. I'd be the straight man.
Be Pendleton,
bringing you cake on stage.
You'd be dropping some heavy beats and bringing out cake.
Bringing out cake.
Cake with sweet frost. Anyway, they have a deal. We cut back to Chavez and Doc in the pit. They're just chatting, but it's kind of a nice little. It's a quick cut. It's a quick scene, but to kind of break things up. But it's also we established that Chavez believes in a spirit horse that will come and take you to the other side. Kind of like a.
Chekhov's spirit horse.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like another weird, it's a fun scene, I guess, to show them having a little fun. The kids shooting candles, he tries to, he
has to do it. He has to blow out. He kind of has a bet or something with them, or
they throw this money on the table, and he's got to so he's
candelabra.
Yeah,
and he shoots out maybe he has a 6-shooter, and there's 8 candles or something. He blows out all of them except for 2, and he's only got 1 bullet left, or he's got 2 bullets left. So what he does is
3 candles and 2 bullets. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he hits it so that the candelabra turns, and then he blows out 2 with 1 shot. That was a pretty cool 6-shooter scene. Loved it.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
yeah, it's a fun Old West kind of scene. Anyway, Billy with his fake arrest is like living the good life. He's like, the sheriff comes in. He's like, the district attorney wants to talk to you. We're going to put your restraints on. He's like, okay. Like for show and everything. And he's like, can you bring that fiddle player in? He was quite good. And he asked for more cake. So I hope it's the sweet frost.
Yeah. And he's like,
anything less than the sweet frost is unacceptable.
A little chilly in here. Can you stoke that fire? Just being a little bitch.
He's living the good life. Yep.
I am going to say that his character is a little more subdued than in the last one, because I would have just punched him in the face in the last one, because he was really nuts. He's only kind of nuts in this
one. Well, he wasn't all there.
He's matured a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The district attorney comes in, and he's kind of like, that's all horse shit. We're not going to pardon you. We finally arrested you. Like, this is what we wanted. See ya. Apparently the governor had no power over the Irish moneymen, he said. So even though the governor maybe wanted to hang all the people in the pit, Like, he didn't really, he couldn't fight. Apparently the DA is the one who decides who testifies, and he says, "Not a bloody chance in the pit of Hades." This guy plays a good bad guy, whoever, I don't know, is that his name? He's good.
Because he's also the jailer, right? Because then he says that you'll have to go against the DA, which is also me.
Yes, that's right. Which happens to be me. So, so Billy, apparently, I like how the old guy is narrating all this, and he says, a historical fact is I had small hands and big wrists. So they show him just kind of pushing the cuffs off. Pretty good move.
Now, when you can't see his old man makeup and he's just doing the voiceover, that's when it falls apart for me. His voice.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Like that's when it like kind of stands out. Like that sounds like someone doing an old guy voice.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. So anyway, he breaks out. He's on like the roof of the building that he was being held in, and he overhears the whatever deputy guy telling Doc, he's like, "Yeah, the world hates a smart mouth, Skurlock." So Billy knows that Doc is in there from overhearing that, and then he spits on the guy's hat. That was kind of funny.
Like a hawk tua.
Yeah, it's a real loogie.
The podcast with the two current of a reference.
Yeah, when did that happen?
He makes
in the last week, I've seen that phrase everywhere.
Hawk tua?
Yeah.
Oh. That night, Kid and his guys, and apparently some other people, I don't know who these other people are, but they show up as dressed as a lynch mob, which is kind of funny because like we get to see kind of like the corruption because like the cops, I guess there aren't.
Thank God, things have completely changed since then.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But they're like, "Oh, please stop." You know what I mean?
This is the scene where you can see Bon Jovi as one of the guys in the
yeah. Yeah, so what happened? So this is the part that they drag Doc and Chavez because like, oh, the kids escaped, but we got two of his regulators, so they drag them out, and they're walking away, and Billy just takes off his mask, and they're like, "Hey, that's Billy the Kid. Why did you wait till you were like miles away before you took that mask off?"
Because he wanted to just fuck with Doc, because Doc's like, "Oh no, I'd never seen Billy the Kid. I'm just a school teacher. I don't want to get killed. Don't kill me."
Yeah, and he's like, "I'm a school teacher, but this one in here." Yeah, he's like, "What?" So,
but yeah, probably not the best idea to remove.
Maybe just waited you a little farther away.
Get around the corner.
Yeah. But anyway, the real lynch mob shows up. It's actually kind of funny because like Doc's like, "Wow, you sure got a lot of boys riding with you these days." He's like, "Them ain't my boys." So then chaos breaks out. There's a lot of guns and shooting and everything, and basically Billy and his boys burn the whole town down. And yeah, at one point, Bon Jovi crawls out of the pit and he gets shot and falls back in. It seems like something just like Bon Jovi's like, "Hey, can I do this? Can I do something?" And they're like, "Sure." Whatever. Yeah.
But first, while you're in the pit, we're gonna dump literal shit.
We're gonna shovel some shit on.
Oh yeah, I doubt that he was actually in there for that. But it's a fun scene. There's also like some lady just grabs a gun and shoots somebody. Like, who is she? Is she supposed to be somebody?
Who's she?
Who's she? Was she supposed to be like the wife of the guy from the first one? Like, I don't know. I've never known who that is.
I didn't even notice it. Sorry.
Nor did I.
It's weird. Maybe it's John Bon Jovi's like wife. It's like, can you get her in it too or something? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea who this woman is. She just comes out with a shotgun and shoots a guy, and it seems to have no purpose to anything.
We did mention Bon Jovi, Randy Travis, and Tom Cruise in the previous movie. I don't actually know if Bon Jovi was in the first one. I couldn't figure that out because it kind of like if you Google search it, it kind of says yes, he was in the movie. But John Bon Jovi made the soundtrack to this movie.
Of course, we should.
He won a Golden Globe, I think, for it.
Oh, no kidding. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I also like the improved score by Alan Silvestri. Sorry.
Alvin, Simon, and Theodore Silvestri.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mark Silvestri.
No, yeah, Alan Silvestri, who did many great movies around this time.
Like Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that Silvestri's like in comic books. Mark Silvestri, Alan Silvestri.
A lot of famous Silvestris.
X-Men movies.
Yeah. So then we got the Regulators reunite. The kid is all happy, and he's like, God damn, it's good to see you. And Doc is like, okay, yeah, just shoot the chain. And we'll, he just wants to go.
Mrs. Elder and I make reference to the scene almost on a daily basis. When someone says the word was, I will always just say were.
Oh, yeah. Because he's like, hey, because Dave is like, hey, all right, I don't take the tenderfoots of my gang, and I don't take the no Mexican. And just like in the first movie, Chavez says, Mexican Indian, you son of a bitch. Which I think is great. I love all these callbacks, But he's like,
just shoot the chain.
Okay? Yeah, he's like, just shoot the chain. Okay. He keeps saying, like, so he can go. Like, he just wants to go. Billy finally does well, first of all, he says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Old Mexico, and there are these guys. You can pay them, and they'll come and get your family, and we'll just live down there, and it'd be great. And he's like, I just want to go. Just shoot the chain. Okay. So that's what he says. We're going to take the Mexican Blackbird, this trail that leads to Old Mexico.
Now,
all right.
Here's some knowledge, a knowledge drop for you that I did not know until today. Mm-hmm. That the Mexican Blackbird is a reference to a ZZ Top song.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
That I did not know.
Did not know that, yeah.
Wow. Or did ZZ Top write a song about this movie? Did that come out first? Okay.
Yeah. But also ZZ Top had their hit the same year, the same summer with their Back to the Future 3.
That's right.
Western. So.
And they also appeared in Back to the Future 3.
Yes.
Just like Bon Jovi appeared in this.
Yeah.
This was August, though. So, yeah, I think that was first.
It was.
Anyway. So, anyways, he finally, I love, he does this funny little flip thing, shoots the chain. So that was pretty cool. I like Doc's like, here's a horse. Here's my watch. It's for the horse. And Billy listens to it. It's like it doesn't work or something. He's like, well, that horse ain't for sale. Because Billy doesn't want him to go. And then Doc punches him, and they start fighting. And this is a funny thing. So they're fighting, and they hold, the guy's holding them back. Of course, Dave is like, yeah, kill that tenderfoot son of a bitch. But so in this, remember last one where Billy was bragging about killing 25 guys, and Doc is like, well, it's 5. And he's like, well, we'll call it 10. Now Billy's mad. He's like, you killed half the men that I got credit for. And he said, I saw you with blood all over yourself, which I don't know, but in my mind, it's a callback to that scene where he shot that guy in the head.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, the blood splattered all over him. Doc is going to go his own way. And there's another reference to this being the end of an era, because Pat says, this ain't the untamed prairie you used to run free over. Anyway, they ride out, and Doc is about to go the other way, but he sees the lawmen coming after him, and he has to stick with Billy or he's going to get killed. But I do like it. As I mentioned earlier, the old voiceover is like, oh, Doc liked me, and he really wanted to ride with me, and whatever. It's like,
he just needs to think about it, spell.
Yeah. We get a quick scene where they're cleaning up the town there, the town of Lincoln, and the sheriff who got shot in the arm in that scene. He just the DA comes up to him and he says he wants him to get Billy the Kid. And I don't know, this line always stuck with me. He says, I'd rather drink turpentine and piss on a brush fire.
It's a good line.
That's pretty good. Yeah. He quits. So now they need a new sheriff, basically what they're establishing there. And
is this the best scene of the movie now? Coming up?
The James Coburn scene?
Yes.
Not quite. There's a quick scene before that where Billy and his guys are all hanging out, and the kid, Doc's like, Billy, where are all the men? You said you had an army. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got an army. And we get, the one guy, Cameron Fry, Alan Ruck, who is playing Henry William French, and he's never shot anybody before or whatever. And he's kind of like Cameron. He kind of reminds me of Cameron.
except less neurotic.
Right.
I'll go. I'll shoot him. I'll go
with Billy. I'll go. But he was a farmer that got, his land taken by the money men or whatever. But the big part about this scene is that Pat says, I don't think I'm going to make this one, kid. And he quits. He's like, I got to stake my claim to some money that's coming through here, And he's like, come on, Pat, we're.
He's going to open a place called Garrett's Place.
That's right. That is a moment to remember. Yes.
And they say like an Eaton place. I'm going to open up an Eaton place or something.
Yeah, it's like be a big old sign out there. It says Garrett's Place. But he says it's time I got an income than ate from stealing horses. Can't really fault him.
But
for that.
Billy the Kid never stole a horse from someone he didn't like.
That's right. So he does say that.
Pat Garrett's like, just for some couple extra bucks, I might do some Uber Eats.
That's thinking, Pat.
On a horse.
Yeah. Did you order a shovel full of bullshit?
Anyways, I think it's kind of a sad moment because he's like, come on, Pat, you've always been one of us. And he says, I always will be, Billy. And he walks out. Then they find Tom, Balthazar Getty again. He's stealing some bread. And
off
hey,
dirty ground.
Yeah, I don't
have some dirt bread.
Hey, he was homeless. What do you want?
I'm saying, why did the guy just?
Why is there bread on the ground?
Earlier, Beaver was like, he's always stealing bread out of my ash cans or bread out of my oven.
Right.
Bread out of my toilet. They have toilets.
So he, I don't know if he would go that far. Billy says, "This is the Prince of Pennsylvania," and he's in the gang. Although he points the gun like at his face, the gun that Billy gives him, and he's like, "Oh, maybe don't do that." So they're this is quite a gang. He's got. And now we have the best scene.
Yeah.
James Coburn scene, by God.
My God, it's the one that started it all. Here's my James Coburn knowledge drop for you. He played Pat Garrett in another movie, and he had a line that said something about you can do that and stuff it up your ass and set fire to it, and so that the line here is a callback to that.
That's right. Isn't that awesome? I mean, they make reference to other old westerns.
Yeah,
classic.
How did you guys get obsessed with James Coburn?
I'll tell you that it's a tale that to take long ago that happened, and actually it was.
I feel like
we were buying a bootleg CD, and it cost a lot of money. And Durst and I were going to split it, and I said something like, I figure you'll pay this much, and I'll pay this much. And he turned and said, oh, is that what you figure? And that's what started it.
I think you go back and listen to our Man Flint podcast. I think we told that story there, too. But yeah, because we made references to movies a lot, like movies that we both knew, and that was one of them. We both knew that line. And he says, is that what you figured?
We even threw it in one of our songs.
Yeah.
Was that on? Yeah. It was like
one of your songs. Yeah.
A musical break, and then we just cut in James Coburn and say, "Is that what you figure?" And then it cut back into the rest of the song. So.
And didn't your guitarist or something say, "Is that what you feel?" Like he didn't get it. He didn't.
No, it was Brahm that said it.
Oh, it was Brahm. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should have known.
He should have. Is that what you feel? Yeah, it's such a great voice. We've literally been doing it for 30 years almost. Probably.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Sometimes I just need a little Coburn refresher. I want to be.
Yep. No, I understand. It's always great to tell the story.
That's the James Coburn soft drink, the Coburn refresher.
Refresher.
Yeah, I just don't want to dunk him.
Oh, nice. Oh man. So, yeah, we get a little more unreliable narrator here because he says, "Old John," his name is John Chisholm, and he's like, "Old John admired my pluck and loved me like I was a son." And he rides up. James Coburn comes out and says, "Well, you really turned out to be a snake, Billy." Really, I guess he doesn't love you like a son. But apparently, him and John Tunstall were partners at one point. So he's like, so Billy the Kid thinks he owes him $500, and he's like, $250 for the fighting I did, and $250 for me leaving your stock alone. All right, thanks for not robbing me.
Well, you could take those
I owe you
figures,
money?
shove them up your arrogant little ass, and set fire to them. I don't know you are.
Yeah. Sorry. So then he says, I have 50 men, and he's gonna bring his 50 down, and they're gonna, and he's like, and Billy says, all right, he says, I'll kill one of your men for every $5 you owe me. So James Coburn has 2 guys with him. Yeah, and this is where we get the famous line from this movie when Billy says, I'll make you famous. But he says, he does like a, bit of gamesmanship here. He's like, I'm going to kill one of your men for every $5 you owe me, but I'm going to do it fair. And he drops his guns and he walks away. And he's like, okay, when I go for my guns, you start shooting. And this is the other, he's like, ready? And another thing John and I always say to each other, he says, yeah, I'm ready.
I say it before every podcast.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was delighted to hear it in the movie and make that connection.
Yeah.
I did not need to drink a Coburn refresher to get that. I was watching the movie in my living room, and it was either the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where I pointed at the screen, or it was Captain America. I understood that reference. Granted, I'm just around by myself.
You could make that meme right there. Just put Chris Evans' head on Leonardo DiCaprio's body.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So as they're building up the tension, he goes, Dave, and then Christian Slater shoots the guy instead, which probably should have been obvious at that point, but that's okay. It's still a fun moment. So then the other guy's like, oh, so the other guy goes for his gun, and he's like, okay, Henry and Cameron there, he can't get his giant gun out of his thing. And he's like, oh my God. And it's all tense, and you think Billy's going to get shot, and Doc shoots the other guy, which is kind of like a moment because Doc was all like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to kill anybody. I don't like you and all this stuff. And he just saved Billy's life. So that was nice. But James Coburn is not happy. Yeah, he said, you just killed yourself. And he says, well, Mr. New Mexico, I wouldn't give it a bucket of piss for your future. Nice line there. And they ride out. And James Coburn meets with the governor and the DA, the bad DA. And they make an offer for, the new sheriff.
I feel like this is a part that you would be telling us what really happened here and not what happens in the movie.
I can tell you what really happened.
Please tell me what really happened.
All right, what really happened was Pat just ran for sheriff and won. Yeah. He was elected sheriff completely legitimately and whatever. But there was a period sort of between November and January in our elections, where he wasn't technically sheriff yet.
Yes.
He was just a deputy. So he was supposed to be arresting Billy the Kid, but he still went after him. Anyway, so there was some illegal stuff going on there, but he did go after Billy the Kid. He was told, yeah, go after, we want you because you know him, go get him. But he wasn't sheriff yet. It makes the bad guys more bad. It makes Pat more of a sellout,
Yeah.
than to have him just oh, they wanted him sheriff and he did it. Good job. But I like they were saying $500. And they give him, I love they just throw the money down this is the great thing about old movies when you just threw cash down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in the untraceable 20s or whatever it was in License to Kill. Imagine being like, we're going to give you a gift card. A Visa gift card.
Just Venmo.
Yeah, just
Also,
we're going to Venmo you.
The $500 is that's 1/4 of 1 month's rent for me now or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's almost like Austin Powers, $500.
Yeah, $1 million. Yeah, and it's sir, that's not really a lot of money anymore. So yeah, but back then Pat was rich. He got $1,000 to go after Billy the Kid.
That ought to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, that's another great James Coburn line.
So
make you feel pretty good.
Anything he says just sounds great. When he was doing ads for beer in the late 70s, early 80s, those just were the most amazing beer commercials you could ever ask for.
Well, my God.
He used to do an anthology show that was sort of like the Twilight Zone where he was the host too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gotta check that out. Anyway, so then we see Pat. He's cut his hair. He's got a respectable mustache now, and walks in. He goes to hire this guy, Ash. Not Ash, Bruce Campbell Ash, but this guy named Ash, who was a writer. And he wants him to document the hunt for the greatest outlaw in the country, Billy the Kid. He gives him like a 20. And the guy's like, "Woo!" He's rich, you know.
He reminds me of like if you took Bryan Cranston and our friend Ray and merged them together. Like if they had a transporter accident.
A transporter accident.
The newspaper guy. Yeah. I liked him too. He's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not gonna go out on a horse.
Yeah, he's like, on a horse.
Yeah, on a horse.
On a horse.
He's like, well, you're just a drunk. Might as well come out and do this.
Yeah.
He's like, all right.
So the reality was that Pat did write a book, but he only hired that guy later to kind of do like the early part of Billy the Kid's life, and he kind of wrote the rest on his own. But I mean, it's more fun to have him with him, you know, instead of the documentary.
And the book didn't do well for him.
Yeah, the book was a failure.
It was a failure. You would think God it would do well.
Epic fail. I know. Well, you know, that time was past, like we said. We also get a fun sort of young Viggo Mortensen comes along and says, sheriff sent, or not sheriff, whatever. He's like, the governor sent me along to give you a hand. And I don't know how old Viggo Mortensen is or what. I mean, because when he was in Lord of the Rings, I was like, that's the same guy?
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is that yesterday, while I was at the gym, I saw him on TV promoting some new Western he's in. So I was like, how's that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's pretty good. I mean, I like him. At this time, I didn't know who he was, but I mean, this was, I'm sorry, 1990. And then, by 2001, I think.
25 years old.
Wow. Really? I mean, I talk about guys who got more handsome as they got older. He's kind of skinny and wormy in this one, but.
Yeah, he's kind of weird looking in this one.
I think he used to say he looked like our neighbor.
Yeah, I still think so. Yeah.
I won't name names, but you and I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, young Viggo.
He was 30. He was 32, actually. 32.
In 1990?
Yeah, he was born in
19 years old now.
Wait a minute.
And I'm the elder.
Born in 1958.
Oh, he looks good.
Viggo Mortensen was born in 1958?
Wow.
Yeah, he's 65.
Him and Ernie Hudson must work out together because Ernie Hudson's like 78 or something, and he looks like he's 51.
It's like they got the Dick Clark secret youth cream thing going. There's a scene here. Again, we have a lot of newspapers like we had in the first one, and Billy's shooting up a newspaper, and I like he's just shooting, and Doc says, "What'd they do nice? Spell your name wrong?" Yeah. I thought that was like a funny line. And he said, "We got a new sheriff on our tails, boys. Goes by the name of Pat Garrett." And Dave's like, "What'd they say about me?" Nothing, Dave. So then
it's almost like that's a running gag through both of the movies. It's like everybody's trying to get a body count and like get in the papers every time.
Yeah. So anyway, they ride up to this Native American burial ground. Although I believe they use the word Indian. Oh, that's right.
Oh, you know what? This scene.
You can say Indian.
Do you know?
No,
you know that the story of why they do this scene, right? Do you have knowledge drop for this?
I do not have a knowledge
drop. Yeah, drop it.
Here,
I can give you back your nerd card if you have a good.
All right. Well, here's the reason for this scene. Well, because they have this fight after, Chavez is like, you can't go in there. It's sacred.
Right.
And then Dave is like, fuck that shit. And then he's like,
he wants to sell the bones.
He can make a bone handle
50 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like 50 cents.
So he starts
not the $1,000 that
he starts desecrating the grave and like going woohoo, and then Chavez and him get in a fight, and then Christian Slater stabs him in the arm with his knife. And the reason they did that was because Lou Diamond had broken his arm in an accident while they were filming, because there was like a scene that they had planned sort of last minute, and it was going to be like Billy the Kid shooting his chains of his handcuffs off. And when he went to do it, the horse freaked out and flipped Lou Diamond all over the place, dragged him around, busted up his knee too. So they were like, well, let's just do this since you're like, let's film this scene instead since your arm's all fucked up anyway. So that will explain why you're kind of not used.
Wow.
There you go.
That's
I'll
crazy.
take my nerd card back now, please.
You can have it. That's insane. I thought it was kind of a cool. I mean, it establishes that like Chavez and Dave obviously are not pals, like in the first one.
And Dave is super racist.
Dave is super. Well, we established that I think already. But yeah, and it's a cool moment to just show that Chavez is a badass because he stabs him right through the arm, and he's like, Jesus,
yeah.
But they stop him from actually shooting Chavez. They stop him. They stop him there. They're like, I don't think so, Dave. But there's a great scene. Sorry,
I have one other story to share after we finish this scene. I just didn't want to.
I was just gonna say, there's that cool part where he's like, "You want your knife back?"
Yeah,
sticking in his arm, and he just pulls it out. And he's just, thank you.
He sure needs a value over
a good ball handle now.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah. So let's go back, listen to our last episode of Young Guns where we talked about my resemblance to the young Kiefer Sutherland. My first year in college in art school, you know how everybody breaks into their little, factions and stuff, and each is their little cliques.
And you're all
it was sort of
I know.
There was sort of the stoner clique. And one of the guys was really into Young Guns. Like, he would just quote the movie all the time. He'd just walk around and be like, "It ain't your gang, Dave." I mean, he wasn't just saying that to nobody. He wasn't just like a
just
crazy
kind of
guy.
wandering around.
Just going,
he was so
stoned. Gang, Dave. But
that was his thing.
Yeah,
that's like his thing. Everybody had
sort of like doing James Coburn for no reason.
That was the fall that I started art school. Was the fall right after the movie had come out, I believe. And so he was just making, comment, like quotes and stuff to his friends all the time. And then one, everybody would congregate out in the hall during, breaks and stuff. And one day I was just out there, and he walks by and then stops and turns to me and says, "Josiah Doc Skurlock," and then continues on.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was real funny.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is great.
And back then, there was a group of 4 attractive girls that we'd call the fan club because they always called me Kiefer. So I tried to.
You had a fan club.
I tried to exploit the fact that we look kind of alike to the most I could possibly exploit it.
I don't blame you. It's better than looking like Jay Leno. I mean, are you gonna get chicks looking like Jay Leno?
Yeah, but see, now you look more like Jason Statham. So I mean,
I know. Well,
now
I had to go bald. Yeah. I do, but I'm not even nearly as badass as Jason Statham. But people don't know that. Nobody knows that.
Yeah, no one has to know that part. I mean, you could just print the legend and say,
"Well, I can do anything."
I killed 21 men last week with my hand. Well,
I'm talking like an old man. We'd always be an audio podcast.
Meanwhile, this is kind of like the next few scenes are sort of alternating. Now we have Pat and his guys. They come into the cemetery, and it looks, and they can tell that there was a fight there and whatever. And meanwhile, the writer he keeps saying he has to have a movement, which I think is a funny. Back in the old West.
Yeah, it's not as funny as Twant, but
no, dirty.
My dad says BM.
Well, my dad used to say that too.
BM. It is pretty. There's no good way to put it, right? But anyways, I love
There's
it.
so much piss talk in both of these movies. It's always about shit, or you're in the outhouse, or you having a bucket of piss, or they're throwing shit on you, or they're saying shit.
Yeah.
Talking shit.
Yeah, Billy Kid talks a lot of shit. Anyway, it is pretty funny. Yeah, he's like, "I have to have a movement. Get me off this animal." And yeah, I love Viggo Mortensen's like, he has to have a what? He's like, he has to have a shit.
He's
anyway,
he finds one today, which makes me wonder if Viggo Mortensen wasn't even listening to the guy, because I'm sure that guy would have been like, "I got another movement coming."
Yeah, movement time.
Movement. We got movement here.
He is a drunk,
Yeah, it's true. It's tough. So there is a kind of so he pulls out the newspaper that Billy was shooting at earlier, and he actually shot the picture of Pat Garrett, and his eyes and his mouth have been shot by So that was kind of, he's like, I just sending a message. He's like, I think he's sending more than a message. And he's like, oh, that's a little scary. And so they're about to leave, and all these Apache show up. And they see that their graves have been desecrated, and they think that Pat and his guys did it, and they're like, ah. And then the writer, he comes up, he speaks in their language, and then they all leave. And they're like, Vigo's like, Sheriff, I think I have to have a move, man.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice little funny.
It's good. You know, I know last episode I said I liked the first one better, but I've been enjoying the second one just as much.
Very good. Yeah. He stopped in this place called White Oaks, which I think we're supposed to believe is like a fancy town. Or a nice little town like Springfield.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe. They go and they, Billy's old friend Jane Greathouse.
Oh, I have another knowledge drop for this scene. Is that if you blink and you miss her, but there's a porn actress, Amber Lynn, is in the scene as one of the ladies.
Yes. Jane is a lady of the night. And so it's kind of like she's talking about how respectable the town is and whatever. She still runs a whorehouse in town, but they're like, you haven't gone respectable, have you? And he's like, well, to the eye that don't know no better.
To 17-year-old me, this woman was like the perfect woman. She has the perfect bottom, at least in this movie. As we see later.
But it also goes back to the end of the era kind of thing. Like, people are becoming like a little bit more civilized. It's like you don't just roll in here and ask for a hand job. We call it something different here. You know what I mean?
We call it a love squeeze.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Christian Slater's just like, well, I've heard enough. We'd like some boonda upstairs. Like,
yeah, when he said that too, I was like, is this The Last Jedi? What's a fucking boonda?
We like to go to Cantu Bite and get some boonda. we get like, it's just Emilio Estevez was contractually obligated to show his butt in like most of these movies, because we show him getting a little sexing from Jane. I kind of like Doc. He's just taking a bath. We don't know that he got pleasured by a woman because he is a married man. But whatever.
I got another knowledge drop.
Oh, go for it.
Practical jokes abounded on the set, and in the first movie,
shooting it.
Kiefer Sutherland left the a la Caddyshack Baby Ruth in the bathtub when Emilio Estevez did his scene. And so Emilio returned the favor, and this movie by doing the same. So
damn,
I was so yeehaw enthusiastic because I was there for the knowledge drop, but then I felt like I was just kind of a regulator, and you were Billy the Kid, and I was just there to support you. So that's why I was like, yeehaw, that Baby Ruth in there,
Baby Ruth. Anyways, but he's reciting all this poetry that is not his again. So. Fine, but he says, she's like, who wrote it? And he says, Josiah Doc Scurlock. And she's like, who the hell is that? Anyways, the good thing is Tom got laid.
Yeah.
How about that? I mean, God. He was way younger than my first time, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and then a deleted scene in this movie, you found out that he slept with his mother.
Like Charlie in
the
last one.
I just want a hug.
He's not old enough to understand that that's not a cool thing to do, I guess. Anyways, he looks out the window and he sees some bad guys coming, and he knocks on Billy's door. He's like, Billy, look out the window. And we see Billy pulling up his pants, and we get a shot of his butt.
Yeah. It's something for the ladies out there.
So it's the deputy. Yeah. The deputy and a lynch mob, and Jane goes out to talk to him, and they just grab her, and they're like, all right, if I'm coming in to talk to you, and if anything happens to me, they're going to string her up and burn her. That was a funny way to say it.
Yeah. Mrs. Elder and I also make Law Way our a regular reference to.
Right. I do things law way. And Billy's like, which way? Law way. This guy is kind of stupid if we're going in. But anyways, he doesn't know. He kind of thinks, if you give me Chavez, these guys will be happy and you can just ride away. And they're like, oh, sure. and he takes Chavez's hat and jacket, puts it around the guy. They push him out the door, and the lynch mob all shoot him, thinking that he's Chavez, because he goes, "We're coming out, and we're coming out shooting," and then they do sort of a problematic Indian war cry, but it works. They shoot their own deputy to death, and then they run away. Which apparently that kind of happened. It was a little different than real life, but the lynch mob did shoot their own deputy and run away. That was kind of that much happened. They might have exaggerated a little bit, but there is like a funny moment where the voiceover, the old Billy the Kid says, "Oh, they pinned that one on me too," and it's like, which is kind of.
He says, even though he didn't fire a shot, but technically he did.
He did fire a shot
but
out
just
the
not
door.
at them.
But yeah, he didn't shoot the guy, but. It's kind of funny. I mean, he did push him into the line of fire. I don't know how that is. That maybe manslaughter? I don't know.
Yeah, count it as half.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
But whatever. It's a fun scene. It's another scene because Billy takes a shot and he says, "Pals." Like he's still riding that pal train. He's not getting off it. They run out. Meanwhile, Pat, he's always like a step behind, but he shows up at Jane's place. They find the dead deputy there. He goes in and chats with Jane.
They leave a little hint at a possible three-way at one point.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know she's technically a prostitute, but boy, that Jane really. She tells Pat. She says, "You used to make me hotter than a June bride, sitting bareback on a depot stove." But anyways, he's now the sheriff, and he says, We don't. He says, "I don't keep with whores no more." So then he just burns the place down. But Jane gets the last laugh. But however, Jane, I guess this is.
I don't really understand the point of this, but
she decides to just strip down to her skivvies, gets on a horse and rides off.
It says, "You could kiss my ass."
Yeah, kiss my ass.
I used to work with this Romanian woman who was just working with us part-time when I worked at a magazine. And she was having a bad day, and she told one of our ad reps to tell the client to kiss her ass. She said, "Tell them to kiss my ass, and I have a beautiful ass." And that's where, and I was telling my editor about that, and he's like, "That's where the large bird came from," because he's like, "A large bird."
Oh.
But that's what they're thinking. You could kiss my ass, and I have a beautiful ass. She was a bad-looking girl. She had a couple of pounds on her, but she was cute.
Well, hey, Jane Greathouse has not a couple pounds. She is
on a bit of cellulite on her.
Yeah, she is quite well built.
Fully loaded, I believe.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I mean, it is kind of like I think it is kind of a part like, oh, this is like a fancy town, and because when they look, they're all like, "Oh my lord!" Like they, you know what I mean? Like they almost don't know what to do. There's a naked woman walking in front of them,
and she's just kind of like, whatever. I don't need the trappings of this fancy whorehouse. I'll just do what I do wherever.
So this is like just kind of like the next scene is kind of just they go to this guano city, I guess. Yeah, batch down.
Can't wait to meet the women.
Yeah, but Pat and his guys actually catch up. There's like a chase through the town, and they're all on horses and everything. And actually, this is like Dave's horse gets shot, I guess. Chavez, he's riding along, and he's just like, I'd say. And all the horses suddenly just
they're like
run.
at the edge of a cliff, and there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And Chavez comes out of nowhere and just blows right by them, yelling, "I'd say."
Yeah. So anyway, they just jump up. All the horses just kind of jump up a cliff, and Pat and his guys don't want to do that. And they said, "Jesus Christ, even his horses are crazy."
Yeah.
But yeah, Dave's horse gets shot at this point as they're shooting at him as they're leaving, and Chavez goes back and picks him up. It's kind of like a nice even though they had that fight earlier, Chavez is cool.
Jabbed a knife through his forearm.
Yeah. Chavez is he's a man of principle.
Yeah.
I like it. But anyway, he says, "What does that mean anyway?" I'd say. And he says, "Oh, it means stop."
You should just said stop instead. Maybe the horse would have understood.
Right. This horse doesn't speak ancient Navajo.
Yeah. That'd be like riding a horse and yelling at it in Klingon to stop. It's like,
Or it's like, what are you talking about?
what the? I have another bit of knowledge to share. They shot this film during the cold months in the desert, so they had to pretend that they were all sweaty and hot the whole time while they were all freezing their butts off.
Wow, how about that?
You can see it in a couple scenes. At least there's the one where he's arrested again. You can see his breath when he's
Yes, that's true. There is a scene where you can see his breath, and I suppose there's nothing you can do about that, right? I mean, it's like we were talking about sweaty armpits. Like you can't stop it.
Yeah, just happens.
But there's kind of a cool, so they show like Billy and his guys they're kind of just like lollygagging along, and they're like, okay, so, when we get to Old Mexico, we'll sell the horses and we'll take a skiff downriver. And meanwhile, Pat and his guys are like charging. It's kind of like a cool, like, and then Kid and Tom, like, he's like, oh, race to the top. And they race to this, like, beautiful pinnacle, and you can see for miles or whatever. And Tom says, is this Old Mexico? And they look across, and Pat is there, and he's like, no, it's Garrett. And Garrett shoots, and you kind of, you can kind of tell what's going on, but one person falls and one person rides off, and Pat says, I got him. And they ride over there, and it's Tom, and he's dying. And he says, you really got me. And yeah, he dies. But Vigo, sort of mean man that he is, he says, take your medicine, son. Just kind of, oof, that's rough.
They would have shot that guy right then. If I was Pat Garrett, shut up. Boom.
Shut up, you jerk. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Supposedly in real life, according to the history that I read, Pat was not remorseful at all about that. But, I mean, in real life, Tom wasn't.
Yeah, he was 14. Also in his 20s. So.
Right. So you just killed another man. It works in the movie, Pat is obviously very sad. And there is a song on the soundtrack that says, you really
Pat's
got
very
me.
Sad. Oh, okay.
No, that would be a funny song. No, it's you really got me, which is what Tom says to him. Yeah, sad scene. And the next scene, they're kind of hiding out. Apparently, in real life, this place was called Stinking Springs. I don't know if I'd stop there, but they're kind of all hanging out. It's like a burnt-out shack. And Billy's going through like Tommy's bag, and he's got like a thing that like almost like a comic book that says like
one of the 5-cent novels about Billy the Kid or whatever.
Yeah, and like he's got is that like Billy the Kid gumballs or something? It looks like, I don't know. He's got like a jar.
I'm sure if it was gumballs or marbles.
I think it's marbles because he's just like kind of, what would a kid have?
And did they have gumballs back then? So
maybe not. You're right, but they definitely had marbles. So. But yeah, he just throws it against the wall. So they're all just hanging out in this shack, and Kid admits, he's like, oh, I felt like there was nothing I wouldn't do to keep a gang together and keep riding. And I'm like, what are you saying? And he's like, he admits that the Mexican Blackbird is not a trail; it's a ZZ Top song. I got it off his band down in Hill Valley.
Playing in Hill Valley.
Yeah. And he admits that he would be just another gringo in Old Mexico. Like, even going down there there's nowhere to go. Like, basically, like just heard some thunder out there. Just as we get to the sad part of the movie. Anyway, so Doc is pissed because he's like, you lied, and he's like, I gotta get back home. And of course, there's also the scene that we mimicked in Durst and the Firestarter.
Reference in Durst and the Firestarter. Yeah. He didn't have a gun, I had a rock. Well, that's always made me laugh more.
Well, we didn't have any fake guns that day.
You are not a god. He says, why don't you pull the trigger and find out? But I have a rock over my head and say, you're not a god. And you're like, why don't you throw the rock and find out? It just makes
I think we just forgot to bring the gun. Classic. Yeah, so anyway, Doc's like, I gotta get back home, and he goes to leave, and as soon as he walks out, he is shot in the chest by Viggo Mortensen. And they're like, oh God!
In real life, I figured you'd have a story about
well, in real life, Doc was not there at all.
He lived to the ripe old age of 80.
Damn,
But,
back then that is old age.
Wow.
But Kiefer Sutherland had filming obligations, so he requested to be killed so that his shoot would be shorter so that he could go shoot whatever. Probably Flatliners. They came out right around the same time.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually. That I did not know. It just seemed to work for the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
this is basically the turning point of the movie, right? This scene right here.
Yeah, this is the part where I was like, the second half of this movie, it's a little less than the second half, but I was like, it just gets dark and depressing. But I haven't watched it in so long that this time around I was like, yeah, no, I'm digging it this time. Whereas before I was like, oh, the guy that looks like me is dead. What the hell? Yeah.
I thought Doc had to make it to the studio to record some tracks with Gilgamesh, and they already had the time booked. So
yeah,
that's exactly what happened. So anyway, yeah, Doc is wounded, and meanwhile, they're like, we gotta get out of here. And I love it. They're like, who's gonna go out first? And they're like, I love it. Dave's like, well, Henry William French, you ain't never killed nobody. They ain't gonna shoot at you. He says, go to hell. They shot Tommy. I love it. They're just like bickering.
Yeah.
And finally, Billy's like, all right, Dave, it's your gang. You lead us out. He's like, hey, my gang, it's your gang. And finally, Doc gets up. You know, Chavez helps him up, and he's like, and he says, let's finish the game. Billy kind of nods and understands, and he hands him a gun, and Doc's going to go out first. And he goes out and takes...
It's dramatic and swells.
Yes, very dramatic. Very cool Alan Silvestri music. As soon as he goes out, he starts shooting a little bit, but they just blow him away. And meanwhile, while he's taking all the fire, they all run out, except Billy. He does not make it out. He lets the other guys go first, which is a good move. Nice guy. Good gentlemanly thing to do.
For once.
Yeah. But okay, yeah. So real life, this was Charlie, who had already died in the first movie, but this was how he died in real life. So they just basically swapped Doc for Charlie in this movie, which, you know, fine. This is a fun scene though. Yeah, I know, like, your guy died, the guy who looks like he was dead, but Chavez, meanwhile, he's like chucking knives at people and jumping around, and he's like, you know, waylaying people, and then he takes a bullet as he's trying to get away, and then Henry comes back. They're about to go, and Dave's like, come on, man, it's you and me, farm boy. But he's like, Chavez is back there, and he goes back and saves Chavez. So meanwhile, Dave's like, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. He bolts. But they catch Billy, is the moral of the story. And this is kind of the start of the falling action. Billy gets taken in before the judge. He says, you will be hanged by the neck till you'll be dead, dead, dead. Well, you can go to hell, hell, hell. That's what he says.
That's good stuff.
Apparently, in real life, he was quite contrite because he knew this was kind of it for him.
Also, I understood that reference again.
Huh.
At one point,
the kid, and there's like some discrepancy over like when all this took place, because like Chavez and Henry are shown sort of like just riding across the desert, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, I'm okay, how are you? He's like, just fine. And I don't know, this supposedly takes months for them to, because when Billy the Kid died and when he was captured, it was like months apart, but who cares? Bill he's in the same room he was in before, but he's got two guys watching him now. The guy he spit on earlier is one of them, and the other guy, this guy Bell, J.W. Bell or something, I think is his name. Real guy, real person in real life. Anyway, yeah, Jane comes to visit him, and she's like, oh, can I see him? And he's like, no visitations. And she's like, can I leave a gift for him? And it's a package of tobacco, but buried in there is a little note that says outhouse. So then, she's speaking of all that shit and horse shit and bullshit and everything that they were shoveling earlier, Billy goes to the outhouse. I love it. He even makes these really fake sounding noises. I mean, like, you can tell he's just going like with his mouth. I'm not going to do it because we are civilized people. But anyways, he comes out and he's like, I wouldn't go in there. So it's kind of funny. As they're walking back up the stairs, he pulls the gun out that Jane left in there. Bella's like shocked. It's kind of dumb. I mean, but let's face it, it's the Old West. They're all kind of dumb.
Yeah. Things haven't improved much since.
That's true. So it's kind of funny. He does seem kind of remorseful. He's like, "Don't do it, Bill. Don't do it." And Bill goes to point his gun at him, and he just shoot him. And he says, "That was stupid, Bill." And then he goes and grabs the rifle. So the guy that he spit on earlier, he says, "Hello, Bob," which is apparently what Billy the Kid really said in real life when he shot him as he escaped. Because this escape really happened. He did escape. That was kind of fun. He goes down to get the keys out of the dead guy's pocket or whatever, and then he pulls out, he's got blood all over his hands, he looks up at the wall, and then he rides off, which is great. And then we see later on when Pat comes to like investigate, he looks on the wall and it's written in blood. It says Garrett's place. I thought it was a great moment. But before that, there was a kind of a fun scene. I thought it was. So Dave makes it to Mexico. He walks, he's like, "Hey, este en Mexico." And they're like, "Oh yeah." So he's like, "You heard of me, right? I'm Dave Rudaball." And they're like, they actually nod. They have heard of him. He's like, "Oh, that's great." Meanwhile, they take out a big knife. So there are two stories what really happened in Arkansas Dave. One is that he got in a bar fight in Mexico and was beheaded as a message to all outlaws who come down,
Damn.
Down
There's
Mexico
also,
way.
yeah, there's also a line of thought that he moved to like Missouri or something and lived out his life and got married and had kids and just lived to be a grumpy old man. So who knows? I think he probably died.
Yeah.
Let's just say.
Let's go with that one.
As far as the movie is concerned, I think he probably was killed. We cut back to Chavez and Henry, and they're stopping in Fort Sumner. They're back at Beaver's place, not Garrett's place, Beaver's place. And Billy's there. And he's like, "Okay, so there's some elk, grazing. We'll cut that and we'll go to Canada." Now Billy wants to go to Canada. I love this. Like, well, Mexico's not going to work. We'll ride for Canada.
Just go the opposite direction.
Yeah, this guy.
Lots of cowboys in Canada too, like Calgary and everything, ranchers.
Yeah, that's true. The Calgary Stampede. Chavez says, I'll be staying here. And he's like, "Well, you stay here, Garrett will take you." He's like, "He already took me." And he shows his gut has been shot. And Chavez is he's done. And Billy this is when Billy finally really realizes, like, this is up. Like, it's over. He says, "I really got us into it this time." And he says, "That's not supposed to be you down there. It's supposed to be me." And Chavez I like how Chavez doesn't deny it or go, "Nah,
Nah, you're okay. You're all right, kid. We love you."
He kind of just like nods. It's like, yeah. And he gets up and he walks out into a cemetery, and we see this kind of goofy shot of it looks like the TriStar logo.
Yeah, it was the one shot that I clearly remembered because I thought it was a little hokey.
Yeah.
I actually disagree. I think it's quite good.
I mean, it makes sense in the movie. I just wish they had done it a different way.
I don't think it's as bad as the slow-mo at the end of the last movie, but I thought it was, I was along for the ride. I was touched by it. I thought it was quite nice.
I think there's something about how it's kind of quick. You know what I mean? It's almost like it doesn't, I don't know. Maybe
if they had shown him,
like riding on it.
No. Like if he had, show him die, you think he's dead, but then he wakes up, looks up, and sees the horse there, and then you realize he's dead. Maybe that would have played a little better than just to the TriStar.
It's a little bit more tricky.
Yeah. It's the spirit horse, and I mean it's weird.
Chekhov's spirit horse.
Maybe they're keeping it open in case they do guns.
Well, that's exactly it.
That's where Chavez.
You didn't really see him die. You just saw the horse run by the screen.
Yeah.
He is on IMDb for guns.
Yeah. He comes in and Henry is still like there, all humdrum like Cameron. He says, because earlier in the movie, Cameron and Henry wanted like a cool name, like a cool cowboy name. He's like, "Oh, you got to earn it, Henry." And he goes up to him. He's like, "Your name will be Buckshot George. That's a good name." And he's like, "My name is Henry William French." And he says, "That's a good name too." I think that's a sign that like this whole thing with the names and this cowboy shit, it's all over. Yeah, exactly. The jig is up. So we get like they're having a birthday party and there's like a the kid is like dancing with this woman, and there's a piñata out there that almost, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it looks like Billy the Kid, but it's kind of like a happy guy with a cowboy hat. It could be any cowboy, I guess, but piñata is kind of funny. So he saw this girl earlier and kind of like made eyes at her, and now he appears to sleep with her, and she says, "Oh yeah, the butcher, this guy Pete Maxwell." She says he was like a real person. This was like really where Billy the Kid supposedly died. He's like, "Yeah, he butchered this morning. Go get some meat, and I'll cook it for you." So he walks out without his gun. He walks in there, and Pat is there, and he lights a match. It's very dramatic. It's just him and Pat. It's kind of in the dark, and the kid. So there's a weird part though, right? When he walks in, he's like, "Let's finish the game." Are we supposed to think like he knew, or is he just?
That's what I was thinking, but then it seems like he doesn't.
Right. He seems kind of surprised. Maybe he just was covering his bases.
Maybe he was just like he was thinking of a nice big hamburger he could eat while watching the game.
I'm gonna walk into a dark room, and just in case someone's in here waiting to shoot me, I'm just gonna pretend I'm macho and say, "Let's finish the game."
So when he walks into the place and he realizes he doesn't have his holster with him, that's how I feel if I leave the room and I don't have my phone with me. You're like, "Whoa, go."
I feel like
"Let's finish the game."
the sign of the day. But where's my my phone is always in the couch cushion right next to me. Where's my phone? Where's my phone?
Yeah, it's great. Can you call me? You got to do that. Anyway, so it is kind of interesting though. Like, Billy kind of waffles back and forth between like, "Hey, I'm cool," and then also like, he's like, "You could let me go." Like, he's like, "You can let me go, Pat. I'll just leave, and you could say you killed me."
It says Pat was like, "I tried to shoot everything but you this whole time."
Yeah, it's kind of, he's like, "You still wouldn't just go away. You wouldn't just go to Mexico. It's just, you wouldn't go below." And he says, "I belong here. The people want me here." And he says, "Not no more." Which is, again, the final, I know I've said that like 50 times during this podcast, but that's like really the final thing. Like, so the people like me here. They want me here. He's like, "Not no more, Billy." So like, this is it. This is done. And then he says, "You killed the boys, Patsy." And he says, "No, Billy, you did." And he says, "If I was with you, I'd be one of them." There's kind of like a moment where he says, "All right, I'm going to make it easy on you." And he turns his back. Just kind of like, "Oh, so now you're going to shoot me in the back," But he also says, "You'll never be me. You'll only be the man who shot Billy the Kid." Which is like kind of a nice dig.
I can live with that.
Yeah, right. I'm the man who shot Billy the Kid. Obviously, it wasn't enough for his book sales, but I don't even know. Does it look like Billy is starting to open a door here or something? I'm not sure. There's like a weird one shot where he's like pushing. Is he pushing like the window open or something?
Possibly. It leaves you with the whole like, well, maybe he got away.
Right.
Thing, and that's why he's an old man.
So a shot rings out, like, because he says, "Hasta la vista." He says, "Hasta la vista, you crazy son of a bitch." And he shoots it, and the piñata outside that we saw earlier explodes from the gun. Like,
I think it's more
the kid
just a symbolic kind of thing, really.
Yeah. Or did the kid just happen to hit it at that moment?
I think the kid hit it.
Right.
Not Billy the Kid.
No, the kid that was hitting
boy.
it. Yeah. But from the shot, everybody scatters because even though we've heard millions of gunshots in this village throughout the entire movie, but that's right. They all run. And I kind of like Pat kind of walks out and everybody's gone and he kind of just saunters out. But Henry kind of like cowers away. He goes back to get his father's Corvette or whatever it is. Ferrari? What is that car in Ferris Bueller?
Shit. I don't remember.
Yeah, it does.
Corvette.
I think you're right.
I think it is.
So then we get the funeral, and like they're saying like the mass for Billy the Kid. He's getting buried there, and someone like takes the reins and sort of walks away, but we don't see their face. And was that Billy the Kid? I don't know. And
well, he did say that he never stole a horse from someone he didn't like.
That's right. Took Pat's horse. So now we cut back to old Emilio Estevez, brushy Bill Roberts. And he says, Yes, I have my scars. And he gets up to kind of walk away. And he goes, William, wait. Or he's like, Mr. Roberts, wait. And then he goes, Billy. And then we cut to the blaze of glory. And they show sort of a little montage of what happened. They mention that Dave got beheaded after arriving in New Mexico. Old Mexico. They mentioned that Pat's book was a failure and he died, and he was shot by a 21-year-old man in 1908. So he lived another like 20 plus, almost 30 years, but died. And Brushy Bill Roberts, as we mentioned earlier, the real Brushy Bill Roberts was discredited, even though there were people alive who said, yeah, that's him.
In 1990, they did something where they did like facial recognition thing, and they took a picture of 14-year-old Billy and old man Brushy, and they're like, there's a 93% chance that he was Billy the Kid. So,
wow, 93?
Yeah,
Wow.
look, next time you're thinking of revoking my nerd card, I've just saved up some nerd cred.
Yeah, right.
So,
next time you don't know something, you've gotta. Yeah,
just
that's
break
pretty
that
good.
I've got a
He
shipping
was
update
like-
for you on that. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks for delivery for the return of the new card. So, but I'll be sending you some notifications via text,
Excellent.
email, and phone calls.
Beautiful. Love it.
We will arrive somewhere between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. that day. So be ready. Anyway, Brushy Bill apparently after he went before the governor and tried to get pardoned, they said no, he died 28 days later. He must have been like 90 though, right? He must have been well, because he said it was 70 years and Billy was like 21. So yeah, old man. If that was indeed Billy, he lived a long life. And even he wasn't Billy, he was old. So. But then we get a final like, you who will make you famous, and then the credits roll over Bon Jovi. And that is Young Guns. Two. Dos. So,
Or if you wanted to say, I'll back you up. Yeah, it was Young Guns because you have 1 and 2. That's both of them. Yes.
both of them. Yes, that's right. So, yeah, I don't know. What I had not heard that 93%.
I just heard it today. So.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I think it's is it almost like, oh, Elvis is alive or Andy Kaufman lived or whatever, is it kind of one of those things, or is it possible that, based on what we were saying in the last episode and what it happens a lot in this episode, in this movie, where the stories get exaggerated and whatever, is it possible?
That's my take on it. It's just this guy that's saying it. It's not. I'm sure Billy the Kid was probably actually killed.
You think Pat Garrett killed Billy the Kid?
Yeah.
He didn't just go around saying, I killed Billy the Kid.
Yeah, if he's standing right there in front of, maybe he was like, okay, go run. But I have a feeling that Billy the Kid was just a fucking psycho. And if he had said that, he would have come back around and blown his cover. So.
Right. Just exactly what Pat says before he kills him. He says, if he's like, yo, show up in Arizona stealing cows.
Yeah. So that's why I feel that he had to have shot him.
Clay, do you have an opinion? Oh,
well, I was just going to say that just a quick, sort of Google search, when did the last cowboy die? It can maybe be 1902, 1924. I think 1950s really kind of pushing it, for
someone who was 20 in 1880. Yeah, to live to then, 90 or something.
There's also somebody that says maybe there was a gunfighter that died in 1957. So
it's possible. Here's the other thing that I think. So in real life, I don't think Pat and Billy were pals. Even as we remember from the last episode, he says, "Are you my friend?" He says, "Yes, I am." They knew each other. They may have even rode for a little bit, but I don't think they were old friends the way that the movie makes it out to be, which is fine. Yeah, the idea that he's like, I'll let you go because we're old buddies is probably not true. He probably just, he got paid to kill this guy and he did it. And he thought it probably would have made a cool ending for his book.
Yeah, the perfect ending for his book.
Right.
I
shot that sumbitch.
If only anyone had read it.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Regardless, the movie even kind of leaves it open-ended as this guy was Billy or not, even though it is Emilio Estevez playing both guys. So I guess the movie kind of thinks he lived. I don't know. But they're taking facts and telling the story they want to tell. That's Young Guns 2. Do we have who wants to go first on the final thoughts? Do we have
How
final
about
thoughts?
Clay? Are you ready?
I'll go first. Sure.
Oh, Clay, I just set you up for yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, see, that's not going to immediately jump to my mind. It might work with your pal Thurston. I haven't had that many.
Well, that's because me and Durst are pals.
Yeah, you got to get more refreshers.
The word pals.
Yeah,
that's right.
I didn't just shoot one of those back, so you know.
You're the Pat Garrett of this gang. You're just gonna leave.
Go on. Who needs you?
I will go first on this. First of all, I want to say something maybe kind of controversial with this crowd. I don't think that Emilio Estevez has a 5-star marquee star power. I think that he's an okay actor. I think he's good. I kind of don't like him in this role a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he's I don't know, it could just be like I'm annoyed by his face or something. I don't know what it is, but he's not like a James Bond actor or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just I think he's okay. I think he's fine. I like this movie probably cinematically and as a Western, maybe a little bit more than the first one because, as I said, I like a more sort of traditional cowboy movie. That's what this one is. But just telling the story of Billy the Kid was never really that interesting to me. So I'm just gonna stick with my rating from last time. Just give it a flat B. It's good. It's fine. I loved the soundtrack when I was a kid. It's been literally years since I've seen this movie, and it was good. It was fine. It was a flat B, and feel that way about Emilio Estevez. So sue me. I think he's great in Witness, but yeah, I just don't see him care. He doesn't get me excited about caring about Billy the Kid as much. So that's it.
All right, then. Do you want to go, John, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, ready.
Yeah,
right.
I'm ready. I enjoyed the movie a little less than the first one, almost as much. So I don't remember what I gave the first one. Did I give that an A or an A minus?
You gave it a B plus.
No, I didn't. I was the only one that gave it an A of some
I'm pretty sure you gave it an A. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I'm
did.
gonna give this one. I'm gonna give
we
this
haven't
one.
posted it yet, but we'll figure it out.
I'm gonna give this one a B plus. Just like I said, I just got a little depressed at the end of the movie, but that's the point, It's the end of an era, and I thought it was handled relatively well. That's really all I have to say. B plus.
All right, that's fine. Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think it's controversial to say that Emilio Estevez is not a great actor or a great superstar actor. I mean, literally, he did I think, as we mentioned, as a lot of people in this movie, his career kind of took a downturn, or at least maybe he just didn't feel like acting anymore. But he did Free Jack or whatever. Well, a few years later, he did this.
That would be Judgment Night.
Judgment Night. Yeah,
that was all right.
It was fine. It was watchable.
I saw it 31 years ago or whatever, so I can't speak for
that.
how well it holds up. But
yeah, I mean, he did Mighty Ducks and whatever. I suppose
Seeing Elmo's Fire.
Well, that was way before this. Yeah.
Well, I just thought you were talking about his movies.
No, I mean, after this, can we safely assume that his career not necessarily because of this movie, it just so happened that he wore down. And I'm not going to say that this guy was ever going to win an Oscar or anything. I think he's fine in this role, and they do mention at one point that he's got a smooth face. He does kind of not have a cowboy face, and they do mention it when he meets the governor. He's like, "Oh, I was expecting a rather rough and older fellow." So it's always like they're saying, "Yeah, we know he's got kind of a baby face for a cowboy," but They all look like this. I mean, literally, you could have cast any one of these actors in any one of these roles, right? Because it was, and there were hundreds of people that could have played Billy the Kid. I thought they did a good job. He was fine. As far as like, I don't know. I'm just gonna probably for nostalgia and stuff. I mean, I was 14, right, when this movie came out. I loved it. It really spoke to me for some reason. I thought it was a fun, a 14-year-old is gonna like, it's the kind of movie you should like. Damn, I was always into this movie. Like I said, I recorded it with my 2 VCRs, and no matter how fuzzy it was, I still watched it. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. I don't want to necessarily put it up there with the other movies I've given A's to, but I really enjoy this movie.
You can give it an A. No one's judging.
Might as well give it an A. Who cares?
And you guys went to see it. We mentioned last time you guys went to see it together.
Yeah, we watched the first one on VHS and then went out that night to watch the second one. And I always just enjoyed it. I always enjoyed the performances. I for some reason, I thought Arkansas Dave was really funny, and I kind of was like a Christian Slater fan for a little while, and I went and rented like Pub of the Volume and stuff. And then like, whatever, it was cool. But now, like, yeah, looking back on it now as an adult, I'm like, all that stuff about it being kind of the end of the era and all that, like that was kind of totally lost on me as a kid. So,
but now, man, we get it.
Yeah. At that time, I was more like Billy the Kid. I was like, yeah, keep riding. Now I'm like,
okay. I'm like, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah. I gotta have a movement. So I don't know, but I think I will give it an A. It's entertaining. It's got enough meat on the bone to make it like, like you can think a little bit if you choose. If you just want to watch it for some fun cowboy stuff, you can do that. It's fun. A. So, yeah,
I have to say that I'm not for a letter grade thing, but it brings me joy that you guys enjoy this movie together. Like, much in a way when you guys kind of say like, well, you'll like anything or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy for you that you like it or whatever. Like, I'm so happy for you guys that it's like such a big deal.
Yeah, this was one of those movies, I guess. Like, yeah, we saw it together. I mean, we've seen a lot of movies that we've done together, but this one is one that it wasn't like, oh, we're going to go see it because it's Star Trek, and we see all the Star Treks and all the Indiana Joneses and whatever. But, yeah, when you're 14 and your parents will drive you to the movies, you know what I mean? Like, we were talking about this same thing with the Back to the Future movies. Like, oh, you're like kind of out experiencing stuff. It's great. We did a lot of these things together. Those are good memories.
Indeed.
So anyway, I think that's all we got. Do you guys have any more final thoughts? You're good?
No.
All right.
I like what you said about how if you could switch the actors and the roles, like I think you definitely could. Like that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good point.
They're pretty interchangeable, and not that's not a insult to them. I mean,
No.
Yeah.
But Billy the Kid is a star of both of the movies, really. So
right.
Yeah. It would be fun to imagine whoever else.
Well, I think like I had read like, Charlie Sheen read for Billy the Kid and whatever. They ended up casting, whatever.
Or imagine if Kiefer was Billy the Kid.
Right. I mean, I imagine if you're a young actor, you want to go out for the starring role all the time. Right, because you want to be the big name. You probably, I don't know if you make more money. I assume you do if you're Billy the Kid versus Charlie, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or Dirty Steve.
Yeah, but I don't think that they were really. I think that I was saying in the last episode, I don't think they were marketing it as the Billy the Kid movie. They were like,
right,
4 or 5 guys. That's the movie.
They're the young guns.
It's like the Avengers kind of thing,
Yeah, I guess that's true. But even so, like Iron Man, like Tony Stark is the star of.
It's true. There has to be one.
Yeah, exactly. There's like and so Emilio Estevez was the star. Yeah, I mean, if they decided, if they like flipped a coin or you know what I mean, decided, we'll put Kiefer Sutherland as Billy the Kid, it would have been fine. I'm sure he would have been able to pull it off. Not like no one else has the look of Tony Stark other than Robert Downey Jr., right? I mean, the look that fans wanted. I don't know. I feel like that happened a lot back then, though. You know what I mean? They would put, like, we were talking about flatliners. It's like Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Bacon. Obviously, Julia Roberts has to. They couldn't just put Kevin Bacon in as Julia Roberts. That would have been kind of weird. But, like, you know, he had the hair. But I mean, you know what I mean? You could basically have put William Baldwin, Kiefer Sutherland, or Kevin Bacon in either of those roles. You know, like they were pretty interchangeable. But it's not a bad thing. It's good. It's a good thing. So maybe they just felt more, you know what I mean? I feel a connection to this guy, you know, and I'd rather play this guy, but, you know, whatever. I'm sure they'll take whatever gig they can get. Thank you for listening. And please check us out on LeaguePodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Also check us out on YouTube, where Clay's got a lot of our not old, but also new episodes up there. So most of our episodes are up there. They're cool. Clay's been doing a lot of work up there. So check them out. Give us a like.
If for some reason you heard this episode for Young Guns 2, we did the first one in the feed before this. So be sure to check it out.
Yeah, just scroll down a little bit. And so, yeehaw, everybody. We will talk to you later.